Yo, what's up? Welcome to the NBA Fantasy Basketball PH podcast. And this is your host, your NBA Fantasy Papi Roi. This is our first episode of the year. Super excited. And we are doing our first episode of our weekend grind. We previously talk about it and tag it as weekend grind because we're doing the English version of our usual show. And this time, since it's a new season, previously we have a DMAC, right? If you remember, now we have a new show. Of course, with still with DMAC, but we have another fantasy expert joining us. So, how do we call our next show? So this is going to be fun and interesting. We are calling our show on a weekly basis as weekly head to head. So of course, this is with me, your fantasy Papi Roy, DMAC of NBA Fantasy Bible, and Arik Z from Day to Day Fantasy. So weekly head to head, meaning you usually hear me alone. Sometimes I have guests, but I think as not as a podcaster, but as a follower like years ago when I'm just checking out fantasy bad podcast and reading articles way back. Actually, there are no podcasts before. I was actually watching like the Rick Kamla show, if you remember that. So way back, where we're used to people talking alone, right? So now I just thought, and we just thought as a group that it's better if we get other fantasy analysts in the house, agreeing, disagreeing, sharing their thoughts. So let's see. Because me, I'm pretty much excited about it. I hope you're excited about it too. And of course, without further ado, I'm gonna pull in my brothers in arms, NBA Fantasy Bible and Day to Day Fantasy. What's up, DMAC and Arik? Hello,
Papi, how
brothers.
are you?
Doing great. How are you, Arik?
I'm great, thank you.
Of course. Are you guys excited?
Oh man, I'm
Oh, I'm
really
super
excited.
excited.
There you go. There you go. So since this is our first episode of our weekly head to head show, let's kind of like introduce ourselves first, right? So let's start off with you, NBA Fantasy Bible, D-Mac.
Yeah, so it's great to be back, Papi. I'm really excited for this next coming season. Great work that we did last season and building that momentum. Good to have Arik on board as well. So good to get some different perspective. I know he's a big roto guy. I think we're more head-to-head guy, but it'll be good to get some comparisons and juxtaposition and just see how we duel as well. It'd be great to have some different opinions on things as well. So just can't wait, my friend.
There you go. There you go. And by the way, guys, D-Mac is actually uh, from Australia, but he has some Filipino lineage, right, D-Mac?
Absolutely. Yeah, on mum's side. So I've got to get back there soon.
There you go. There you go. Okay. And from the other side of the world, Arik, introduce yourself.
Hi everybody. My name is Arik. I'm from Israel, from Day to Day. We have our podcast in Israel. We're a duo from Israel, two analysts, the most known analyst in Israel, the fantasy analyst in Israel. We have our fantasy app, and I'm so glad to join and finally do something internationally.
There you go. There you go. And by the way, Arik, you actually won last year the Locked On Fantasy
LOFB
Basketball.
Bowl.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
So we have some champions in our house, and you
Yeah,
already,
hopefully to repeat this year.
yeah, back to back champs. And by the way, Arik, so moving forward in our every episode, starting, I guess, the when the season starts, we'll be monitoring your team in that league. We'll give you some minutes to share what's happening in that league because I personally wanted to join again, but I want to be honest to myself. I'm a Yahoo guy because I really had I really had a hard time using Fantrack. So I'll let Arik win back to back for that league. Okay. Okay. So what's our topic for today? So our topic for today is going to be really interesting. So guys, we're going to talk about the Yahoo Fantasy rankings that we have right now. And we're going to talk about it per round. So meaning DMAC, Arik, and we're gonna take turns talking about players within rounds, notable players, and then of course we're gonna share our takes. Might it be something that we agree on? Might it be something that we don't agree on? So this is going to be fun. And then with that said, let's start off with our first round. So Yahoo ranks its first round with 12 players. So since let's assume this is about a 12-team Yahoo league. So we're going to discuss around 168 players for today. Not every player, but at least 13 rounds of it. So for the first round, it's ranked number 1 with Nikola Jokic, of course, followed by Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, Shea Gilgeous Alexander, shout out T-Mac, my boy SGA now in the first round, Tyrese Halliburton in number 6, Stephen Curry, number 7, LaMelo Ball, number 8, Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard, Kevin Durant, and his berth in the top 12 for this season, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who started the ranking outside of top 12. So, DMAC, what's your notable player in that round?
Yeah, look, Giannis at 12 is really interesting. I think he's been a perennial top 6, top 7. I think even a few weeks ago, people were saying he's a lock for position 8, but going down to 12, I guess people are concerned about the ongoing knee issues as well, and perhaps just looking after that load management. I know the NBA came out with a new policy in regards to load management, so that'll be interesting to see how they enforce that. But yeah, just to see Giannis's name down at 12 is really interesting from a head-to-head perspective. I know we'll speak to Arik shortly in regards to Roto, but yeah, 12 for a head-to-head is really interesting. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, a quick question to you, DMAC. What do you think is the reason why Giannis kind of like slipped this kind of like, well, initially he is being drafted, especially in head-to-head, like top 5, right? In the past few seasons. So now, at the end of the first round, so is this something about his ability to stay healthy or to play like for 82 games?
I think it's a combination of things, staying healthy, the return of Chris Middleton as well, take back some usage. He was really restricted last season as well. So that could actually be a good thing in terms of Giannis and getting some of those defensive stats back. So it could be a combination of things, and people are just unsure. He pulled out of the FIBA World Cup as well for Greece. So not a great sign coming into the new season, but it could be a combination of things, and maybe just some of these other guys pose less of a risk. However, at the back end of that first round, there's quite a few guys that pose those risks, similar to Giannis. So yeah, interesting one down at 12.
Yeah, there you go. How about you, Arik?
First of all, I don't want to be labeled as the Roto guy. I play a lot of head-to-head as well. And to tell you the truth, my philosophy is that it's not as different as you think, because I'm really pro punts in Roto as well. Okay, and I totally agree about Giannis. I want to talk about other player, if I may.
Sure.
I want to talk about Durant at the first round. The guy played 137 games in the past 3 seasons. I'm not touching him, not as a first rounder. His per game stats are great. Last year in our app, we put him in the about the 10th, 11th place, something like that. As I remember, people roasted me. How won't we put him in the 3rd or 4th place? And we said he's too injury prone to take him too early. So this year, after another year that he was injured, I'm not taking the chance. There are other possibilities, much safer in the first round.
Yeah, and I actually checked your day-to-day app, which guys, I encourage you really download this app. This is a pretty cool and very helpful app actually. And currently you ranked Kevin Durant as 15. So it
Yes,
kind of like
yes,
really
yes.
show your take on him.
I put my money where my mouth is. I'm not putting him as a first rounder because of health issues. I want my first rounder to play. And a lot of them are have a risk. Okay, Bible said it correctly. A lot of the first rounders are injury prone, every injury risk. But Durant needs to prove that his body can handle a full season, because after his injury, there wasn't 1 year that it happened, and he's already old in basketball terms. So, yeah, I'm older, but I'm sitting on the chair, I'm talking about fantasy. I don't need to be, I don't need to be healthy. So I'll pass. Even in the 11th spot, I'll pass. It doesn't matter. Roto, head to head. Give me someone else that plays.
Well, essentially, that's a little bit relief on my end because actually I passed on Kevin Durant in a Roto league where I actually chose Lamelo Ball over him. I was contemplating taking Durant there because you usually get Durant for Roto, right? That's kind of like how at least was ingrained to us as
Yes,
an
but
efficient
he
player.
plays so little that even in Roto it doesn't help you as much as as a first rounder. 45 games are nothing. So
Who would you if you're taking away Kevin Durant in the first round, who would you rather put there? So you take away Kevin Durant. So out of the players in the second round, who
the
is
players
a
that you
player that you're
didn't
more comfortable
mention,
with? Yeah,
the players that you didn't mention, I'll take Mitchell. Okay, I'll take and I know Daniel wouldn't like it, but I'll contemplate about taking Jaren Jackson. I'll take who else? I guess both of them are enough.
Jimmy. Would you
Uh,
take Jimmy Butler?
as a first rounder,
Yeah,
look, you know that I really like Butler.
yeah, I know.
I know, and I think he's underappreciated. But I won't overappreciate him. Butler has his health issues as well. He doesn't lose a lot of time because of big injuries, but he misses a lot of games through the season. So I won't take him as a first rounder, but I happily take him as a second rounder, which isn't the consensus about him.
Gotcha. Okay. Last question for second round.
Just on that one, Arik, just very
Yeah, go
quickly.
ahead. Go ahead.
Just off the top of your head, who played more games last season, Jimmy Butler or Jaren Jackson Jr.?
Last year, I think Butler, because Triple J was injured in the start of the season.
Right,
And
right. So he actually played 64 games, which is actually a hell of a good effort by Butler, which is
yes,
it's actually great looking into this season. But I know that with impending trades to happen, that could ease off, as you said.
yes, and if it was on a yearly basis, those 64 games, that so I would appreciate Butler even more. But we know his history. The 64 games and the 2 months that he played straight, 25 straight games during the fantasy playoffs, okay, were crazy. Okay, give me that. If you promise me that, he's a first rounder in my book. Okay, but we both know the concerns that it probably won't happen again.
Before I move into my last question for the first round, if ever Damian Lillard goes to the Miami Heat, how do you think it impacts Jimmy Butler's value?
Whom you want to answer the
Yeah,
question, me or Daniel?
let's start off with you, Arik.
Okay. To tell you the truth, I don't think it will impact Butler too much. Okay, Butler is the kind of star that thrives of defense and knows how to be the second. A star that with role player mentality sometimes. He knows how to be the second guy on offense, and he is a killer. He knows, for example, near Embiid in the playoffs when they needed him, he was the alpha, but he knows to give the light to the other players, and it reflects in his stats. He doesn't score 25, 26 points per game. He scores 22, 21, so he will score 20. It won't change a lot because if Lillard will come, it means that Hero will be gone. So, Hero scored 21 points, something like that last year. So we're talking about 6 additional points, 7, 8 additional points Lillard gives, and the offense gets better. So it's not like it's a trade 1-for-1. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The offense will get better, so Lillard will score points that nobody scored last year. So in that regard, I don't see a lot of a difference. Maybe few points less, a bit assists less, but all in all, I think he still be a really high efficiency guy with a lot of steals, rebounds, assists, nice scoring. So that's my view.
And to be honest, I was also thinking that maybe he will play more. Technically, he need to play more because it's a new teammate. If they wanted to win the championship, they really need to play a little longer than as a cohesive group, so they are more prepared in the playoffs. So
Interesting thought. Maybe.
So now I'm gonna ask something about DMAC. DMAC, if you're gonna put in all your money in a certain league, and then I'm gonna ask you, who is the safest first rounder that you can think of? Who's that player?
The safest, apart from Jokic.
Sorry, who?
Apart from Jokic?
Yeah, apart from Jokic.
Look, Tatum is obviously he's the Iron Man at the moment, but I think him being at 4 is a little bit high. He's gone ahead of SGA and Halliburton. I think Halliburton's going to be a tremendous player this season. I think per game, he'll actually be above Tatum. And I think Indiana want to win this season. They're not going to ease off on his workload at the end of the season like they did last. So I actually think that Halliburton and SGA, for that matter, should be ahead of Jason Tatum. So I actually love Halliburton coming to this season.
There you go. Much love for Hal. And by the way, before we move into the second round, if you check out the day-to-day fantasy app, number 2 player is Tyrese Halliburton and number 3 is SGA. So that's the reason why Arik here is, showing some hands too.
Yeah, good take. In my book, Halliburton is my safest bet this year.
Gotcha. So
except of course of Jokic, this all other level.
Who don't want Jokic, right? Okay, let's now go to the second round. Second round, we have Devin Booker, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, 2 Anthonys back to back, Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis jumped a couple of places since the update in Yahoo. We have Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, Fred VanVleet, Mikal Bridges at number 20, Triple J at number 21, Desmond Bain, Kawhi Leonard, and of course, Jimmy Butler. So I'll start off with my take here. The player that I really like in this area, to be honest, specifically for head-to-head, I really like Trae Young in this area. I think the bump in his ranking from number 27 to number 17 is something that I would have done as well. Reason is it's really hard to get someone that scores and gives you a lot of dimes early in the rounds. So I think if I have a solid first rounder, I would always target Trae Young, especially if it's I'm in the back end of the round of the first round. So again, that's just my short take, at least on the second round, something that really kind of like caught my eyes when I checked out the adjustment from Yahoo, because initially Trae Young is actually in the third round before the recent update. So now it gets adjusted to number 17. I have several leagues that I was able to get him as my third pick, which I think is a very value pick. But yeah, Trae Young for second round. Let's ask now DMAC. DMAC, out of the players in the second round, anyone that caught your attention?
Absolutely, and this is controversial. I know Arik isn't with me here, and I think JJJ in the second round is a little bit more sensible. I think he finds him to be a first rounder, which is fine. You look at the rankings from previous seasons, so from last season in particular, first rounder, ranked 12th, basketball monster. But I think 21 from a preseason rank of about 15 is a bit more sensible. But again, I like your pick of Trae Young. We're going for statistical scarcity. Assists, as we know, points is really hard to find at the latter stages of the draft. blocks this season is actually completely different to this time last year. We were struggling to find guys late in the draft that could provide those high-level blocks. This season, we've got a plethora of options in the mid to late rounds. So I think that reduces the value that JJJ does provide. A lot of his value is in his blocks. We saw at the World Cup, he did struggle with his rebounds, and that's something that we see in the NBA, not as much as what we saw for Team USA, but he's never going to be a high rebounds guy. And I guess next to Steven Adams, that's also not going to be the case as well. So I think a lot of his value is tied up in blocks, which for me, I'd prefer to get my assists and my points early. So in first few rounds, that's what I'm targeting. So JJJ for me, I think a little bit more sensible at 21, but even for my own liking, I'd probably take him a little bit later. The other one, I'm looking through that one. Kawhi Leonard, 23. I think that's too much of a risk again for head-to-head. It's a nice pick for Roto, sensible pick for Roto, but for head-to-head, again, he's going to be load managed, irrespective of the new policy that the NBA has brought out. He will be load managed. And so 23 is just not going to cut it for me in terms of totals. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give some airtime to Arik in response to your Triple J take. So Arik, what can you say about that in terms of your own assessment for Jaren Jackson Jr.?
I totally understand Daniel's point of view, but as I see it, Triple J gives you much more. The question is, what do you get with the blocks, okay? And I don't see a lot of players that with the blocks gives you the. Just a second, let me find. Okay, I don't see a lot of players that with almost three blocks a game, 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, doesn't really matter. Will give you 20 points per game. So you're gaining the points now, but later you'll get a blocker that gives you 9 points. I'll get a player that gives you 14 points, and you know the difference will cut the difference that way, and not only 20 points a game. I don't see a lot of players that give you that much blocks and doesn't hurt you on the free throw line. So as I see Triple J, if I'm going to punt field goal percentage, for example, or rebound or double punt free throws percentage and field goals percentage and rebounds, I'll totally take it in the second round, because you need when you're punting, you need to make sure that the categories that are hard to get in this punt, you get them, okay? Or else you'll be in another punt that you didn't planned. If you're punting field goals, it's hard to get blocks, and this is why I think Triple J. If I punt field goals and rebounds, Triple J is perfect. He won't hurt my free throws. This is the biggest concern, and he'll give me much needed blocks in a punt that you can't get a lot of blocks, or else you're losing a lot of value and picking a player that isn't suited for the punt.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Especially, I like the angle wherein it's hard. It's really hard to get a big with good percentages that scores and blocks. That's the reason why some of in the drafts that I just had in the past weeks, I noticed that Brook Lopez is actually getting drafted like as high as he finished last year. So I guess the reason is the build that they're aiming to, getting that big man that gives you blocks, but is also efficient in the free throws, and then can shoot threes, and then I guess has a decent amount of points. So yeah, totally get it. I have a player that kind of like I am having a hard time really, drafting if in case I'm put into a situation. His name is Devin Booker. So why what is the reason I kind of like it's really hard for me to assess him. You know why? Because he doesn't shoot a lot of threes as a scorer. He's efficient, but it doesn't offer a lot of threes. And then I'm expecting a bump in assist, but he doesn't have a massive a potential to have like a massive amount of dimes, and it doesn't defend a lot as well. So being ranked at number 13, do you think this is fair, or am I missing anything about Devin Booker? So guys, enlighten me. DMAC.
Yeah, I'm not as high on Booker as a lot of other analysts are, actually. I'm with you. I think 13's really high for Booker. There's a lot of talent on that Suns team as well. So he's also going to be sharing playmaking role with Bradley Beal as well. And Kevin Durant also racks up the assists. So it's going to be quite a shared load on that team. Don't forget Aiton as well. So he takes up a little bit of usage, not as much, obviously, as the other three. But there's a lot of talent to be shared. But I think 13's really high. I know people are banging on about point Booker. I just can't see it being in 13. I like him. His efficiency is awesome. His points are great. And I think, yeah, as you said, the uptick in assists will be nice, but 13 is really rich for me.
Yeah. How about you, Arik?
Agreed. I don't have nothing to add.
Yeah. Last point for round 2. There are two players that kind of like has not a new role for Mikal Bridges, but they aren't really hasn't been a staple as the main guy of their team. So we have Fred VanVleet and Mikal Bridges. Who are you more inclined to draft given a chance? If you're given an opportunity to draft Fred VanVleet or Mikal Bridges. Arik, let's start with you. Do you like FBV more or Mikal Bridges?
To tell you the truth, I like both of them in the second round. Fred VanVleet, I have one concern. He played a ton of minutes in Toronto. We know how their coach liked to kill the players on the court. Yeah. So I'm not sure that in Houston he'll play that amount of minutes. So people sometimes don't think about it, but the most important thing is how much you play. If you play 5 minutes less, 4 minutes less, 3 minutes less, that means that he will get less stats. But still, he's a max player in a team that needs his presence. And now with all the shit going on with Kevin Porter Jr., I guess it's opened a few minutes more, even for a starter like him. About Mikal is about the safest player in the league, doesn't miss a game. And now in Brooklyn, he shows star quality. We'll have to see if we can replicate the end of last season. But I'm pretty confident about picking him in the second round because, even if he'll have third round per game value, it's still worth it if he doesn't miss me any games.
Yeah, good point. How about you, DMAC?
Yeah, I love Mikal Bridges. It is really high, and he never got to those heights last season after he was traded away from the Suns. He is safe, and we know he's the Iron Man, but we all know that old adage, he's healthy until he's not. Not to say that he's going to get injured this season, but I just don't see that per game. So if I had to pick between VanVleet and Mikal, I'm taking VanVleet. Similar to what Arik was saying, they need his leadership. They need him to play on that Houston team. I know you've got Amen Thompson coming off the bench as well. I know he should be my poster boy with the Bible, as I said the other day. He's really exciting, but I still think Freddie is going to play a significant role for this young Houston team.
There you go. Okay. Let's now move to the third round. Round 3 starts off with pick number 25, Paul George, followed by James Harden, LeBron James, Pascal Siakam, Bam Adebayo, DeJounte Murray. Number 31 is Lauri Markkanen, one of the hype players last season. Another hype player is Cade Cunningham at number 32. You have Miles Turner, Drew Holiday, Jalen Brunson, and Nikola Vucevic. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with Nikola Vucevic here. So to be honest, there's some extreme takes from the public versus what we hear and what we see in the references that we have. Say, for example, how Josh Lloyd assessed Nikola Vucevic. So I'm gonna ask both of you here. Because when I drafted in the past few weeks, Nikola Vucevic is being drafted crazy. I think this is because of what he brings to the plate as a big man in comparison to the big mans in the upcoming rounds. So that's just my assumption based on the trend in public. But in comparison to how other fantasy analysts thinks Nikola Vucevic will play in the upcoming season, which they think he is might be kind of like losing his touch, maybe lesser points, lesser rebound. So which side are you on? Are you with the public that kind of like a little bit higher on Nikola Vucevic, or are you with our co-fantasy analysts in the industry where they aren't really fond of, they like Nikola Vucevic, but they won't, they won't reach out to really get him. So let's start off with you, Dima.
I'm not reaching out, but he's so safe. We've talked about McCall Bridges being safe. Vucevic is super safe. And the center behind him is Andre Drummond, rebound specialist. He's not getting a lot of minutes. The only thing I can think of that would impact Nikola Vucevic is probably Zach LaVine just ticking up his usage. I know there is a stretch of last season where he was injured, he wasn't in form, but come the end of the season, he was looking prime LaVine. He was taking away usage from DeMar DeRozan as well. So I could see that ramping up and him being and re-establishing himself as the alpha. That will take away a few touches from Vucevic. And Vucevic does provide a different stat set at center than a lot of the traditional big men that we'll talk about later on. And even guys like Walker Kessler, very different type of player. I still like Vooch. I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff like some analysts are saying, but I'm not going to reach to get him. He is just super safe. Fourth round is a nice area. Third round, it's okay as well. He's super durable. I don't think he missed any games last season. I'll have to check that, but I think he was one of the most durable players in the league.
Didn't miss a game.
Didn't miss a game. There you go.
Didn't miss a game.
So Arik, I see you agreeing with Dimak. So you with
I like Vooch even more than Dimak. Okay, I think Vooch is the kind of player that every year analysts assess him wrong. Okay, and every year they're repeating the same mistake. Okay, he's as Dimek said, he's very durable. His stats, his rebounds are safe. Most of his stats are safe, and moreover, last year he finished 26 per game, and he did it with only 0.7 blocks and 0.7 steals that are less than his average through the last years. Okay, so he may have even more defensive stats this year than last year. I won't take him at the beginning of the third round, okay? But pick 30, something like that, I'm totally fine with it. He gives a lot of confidence and rebounds. That is stats that's pretty hard to find elite rebounders these times. You know, a lot of manager play in a league with only one center, so there's less rebounds to divide, and his rebounds are totally safe, and he gives you them with high free throw percentage, high field goal percentage that it's hard to have together. So he's the third rounder in my book.
There you go. And then to piggyback on the theme that we're talking about right now, we're talking about the two extremes between publics and fantasy analysts. Another player that comes into my mind is Cade Cunningham. So Cade Cunningham has been, a player that has been hyped, especially with amazing plays that we've seen in the USA Select, right? That goes as well with his upside. But do you think his field goals and turnovers will, is something that needs to be taken a little bit with cautiousness in this year, or are you with the upside that Cade Cunningham brings? Let's start off with you, Arik.
Listen, I love Cade's potential, but I really don't like hyped players that didn't show us that they can be a third round players, second round players. So for now, I think I'll avoid Cade in the third round, not because I don't think he can be this year third round player, but I like safer options. There are still really exciting safer options, I think. And of course, if I'm going to punt turnovers and field goal percentage, then then he'll be a valid choice in the third round. But otherwise, I think I'll pass on him so early.
How about you, D-Man?
Yeah, he's probably the biggest high player in the preseason. Look, Fantrax ADP at 33 is pretty rich. I think he's worthy of that sort of region. He's coming into his third year. Last year was a bit of a write-off. I think he only played 12 games. He's only 22 years old. He's got that pedigree as the former #1 pick coming out of Oklahoma State. I really love him. Like you said, Papi, he looked really good for Team USA Select. Had that synergy with Jalen Duren as well. So that's really important. Something that he will establish. Duren's only 19 years old. So they've got that core. And I think something that people don't really rate is the ability for him to get stronger. So yes, he's only 22 years old. He's getting stronger. He's been in the gym. That'll help with his pick and roll game. And so working in synergy with Jalen Duren, that's going to help him just get to the rim a lot more, drive to the basket, blow past defenders, and really help that field goal percentage. It may never be close to that Doncic 50% region, but if he can build from 43 up to maybe a 45 or a 46, that's going to take him up to that upper echelon of point guards as well. Elite rebounds, elite assists, really good free throws, good on steals. He can get the sneaky block here and there as well. Turnovers, yes, they're really high, but we don't really care about turnovers. I disregard them, not completely. I do have a weighting on that, but I really don't mind too much about those turnovers. I think he's going to have a great season. So I'm okay with taking him in the third. Perhaps the fourth will be nice, but I'll take him as high as the third round.
Okay. And then to sum up round 3, let me quickly ask your sequence for these 3 players. Just give me how would you rank them. Paul George, James Harden, LeBron James. In terms of picking, who would you pick first among the 3? Again, Paul George, James Harden, and LeBron James. Let's start with you, D-Man.
LeBron last of the 3. That's the easy one, just because of games played and he will be resting. Paul George is an interesting one. I think he's got a really high ceiling, but it's really difficult with a lot of moving parts with James Harden as well. Perhaps they end up on the same team. Normally, if I knew that James Harden would be safe in Philly or a team that didn't have already 2 superstars, I'd be taking James Harden. So it's almost a toss-up between the 2. I'm still going to lean Harden. It is a risky pick, though, because we just don't know how long he's going to stay out, if he's actually going to suit up for the 76ers. But I probably would go Harden, followed by PG, then LeBron. But tomorrow, you ask me the same question, it could be the other way around. But LeBron's probably the third of those 3.
Gotcha. And I think James Harden is already, stocking some food for that annual bulking up of if you want.
Well, he's got the fat suit.
Yeah.
That famous fat suit in the closet.
Yeah.
How about you, Arik?
I'd rather take my chances with Harden than with George, just because George is injured every year. I know that Harden is about the situation. If he'll get a trade or if he'll have a safe situation, he'll be fine per game and total. Because yes, he got injured last year for about a month, but still he's much safer options than Paul George if we know both of them are playing in a team. About LeBron, yes, he's 39 years old. It's hard to pick him before one of the others. Even though I really don't like taking George. Last year, I didn't have George or LeBron in any of my teams, and I had a lot of teams. So I think I'm on board with DMAC about this ranking.
Okay. So round 4 is going to be an exciting round, to be honest. There's a lot of solid players here. Let's start off with Darius Garland at number 37, followed by Jaylen Brown. Karl Anthony Towns falling to number 39. Victor Wembanyama at number 40. Evan Mobley Kristaps Porzingis, Aaron Fox at number 43, DeMar DeRozan, Jamal Murray, the Blue Arrow, OG Anunoby, followed by number 47, Brandon Ingram, and then last of that round is Walker Kessler at number 48. Let's start off with you, Dimac. Anyone who you like in this round?
Arik, you know who I'm going to pick on. It's Walker Kessler. Look, he was tremendous after trade deadline. He was so good. And the guys that picked him up off the wire, I think they probably would have had a lot of success last season. He was really good. And we all know where his strength lies, and that's with blocks, high to field goals, low turnovers. But similar to what I was saying with JJJ, you can find some of those blocks and high field goals later in the draft. I just feel that although 48 represents where he's probably ranked in traditional rankings, in those middle rounds, I probably prefer to go someone that does provide those assists and those points rather than someone that I can get the stats, perhaps not as much as Walker Kessler with one guy, but across a couple of guys in the later rounds. It's just a strategy that I'm thinking of about this season. It's just, I know a lot of analysts are now looking at -1 statistics, and when you take away the best and worst category, I think he comes back to the field a fair bit. So I think Walker Kessler in the 4th round is too rich for my liking.
Okay, Walker Kessler. To be honest, Walker Kessler was bumped. What? He was initially ranked at, I think it was early, as far as I remember. When we started the Yahoo, let me double check on it. But I think he was bumped a couple of places in the new ranking. So how about you, Arik? Who do you like here in the 4th round?
Who I like in the 4th round? Towns. Towns, 4th round. Nice value pick. I think he'll be 2nd or 3rd round player per game. I think that Towns was Iron Man for the first 4 years of his career. Didn't miss the game. Now the last couple of years, even three seasons, I think he got injured every season. But I think that it's not because he's such an injury-prone player. It was just bad luck last year. I think that if he's healthy, he should be much more valuable than a 4th rounder on a per game basis. So from those names, I think he strikes me the most as the best pick.
Yeah, totally agree on Carl Anthony Towns. Me personally, I kind of like Darius Garland in this area because out of all the players here, he's if you kind of like wasn't able to get an assist guy that has a good stats across the boards, I think Darius Garland is the lone guard here. You can argue De'Aaron Fox, but of course he doesn't have a lot of snipes. The free throw percentage is really rocky. So that's the reason why I like Darius Garland. But I want to end this round with a question about our poster guy. Not maybe specifically to us, but someone who really was super hype in the past couple of months. Victor Wembanyama. Is he worth round 4? Or are you high on him? Or are you think he should be drafted a little bit later? Arik.
I'm okay with Victor Wembanyama on the 4th pick, but I think there are better names here. I tell you the truth, there are few names that I rather pick than the players that were in the 3rd round. So I'm okay with Victor Wembanyama on the 4th pick. That's all. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think he has a ton of upside. He can easily be worth more than the 4th round. He has his risks. So if you take this pick as a whole, 4th round is okay with me.
How about you, Dima?
I agree. 4th round's a good spot. I know that when preseason games will start, there's going to be a lot more hype around him. So I wouldn't be surprised once we get into preseason that he'll probably be taken in maybe the second or third round, just with all that hype. It has sort of slowed down since the draft and since Summer League. So there's been that hiatus in between. So maybe the shine's just worn off, but I feel like that's going to come back pretty quickly. So a fourth round pick, I think, is pretty solid. Yeah, as Arik alluded to, they have risks at San Antonio. They're going to have a struggle of a season again and looking to perhaps tank come the end of the season. He could be one of the first guys that will strategically rest throughout the season.
Yeah, especially with the new rule wherein you don't need 65 games to really win a rookie award. So it's going to be interesting, to be honest, because initially I thought that, you know, he needs to reach this number of games for him to win. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure they want Wembanyama to win. So now, at least this is my understanding. The last time I checked, I think they don't require a rookie to reach 65 games to win a rookie award. So gonna be interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
That's bad news. Huh?
Yeah, we can double check, but that's the last time I checked. That's how I understood it. So feel free to, you know, correct me if I understood it incorrect. Okay. The next round is it has fifth round is several names that are staple but also young. Talking about young for a new team, not in a, well, he's still younger. Jordan Poole at number 49, Zach LaVine at number 50. You have Scotty Barnes, new role, DeAndre Ayton, and Chet Holmgren. Initially, we have Victor Yama in the fourth round. Now in the fifth round, you have Chet Holmgren. So I'm gonna ask you again between the two later. You have Jarrett Allen, Julius Randle, Nick Claxton, a revelation last season at number 56. Tyrese Maxey is another interesting name here. Bradley Beal, and one of our favorite players last season, J-Dub, Jalen Williams at number 59. And one of my boys, Alperen Sengun at number 60. Oh, I'm gonna start off with my boy Alperen Sengun. He's been one of the hype players, to be honest, but I don't know. I just think I'm good because there are two stories that's gonna happen here. Number one is the people are scared that the Houston Rockets might need Alperen Sengun to really defend, and given that he isn't really an excellent defender, people are thinking, hey, he might get benched, or maybe Tariq Eason plays at number 5, which is generally something that really could happen. But I just think Alperen Sengun is a talent that a coach and an owner would really bank on, given his recent performances. If you check on his stats, his goal in the past 2 seasons is really doing a lot of things better every time. Better in free throw percentage, better in points, better in rebound. Actually, everything's better. Almost an assist. Almost a steal and a block improvement from his first year. So, given that he is the mini Jokic among the younger bigs, I'm actually not super high, but I think I would love Alperen Sengun to be my first center if I invested for good guards and forwards in the first couple of rounds. So, yeah, that's my take on Sengun. D-Mac, what can you say about this 5th round?
Just on Sengun, I think that's a solid pick. But yeah, there are concerns that he will be benched at times. He may not play 30 minutes a game. Jabari Smith could play at the 5. Tari Eason, as you said, could then slip down to the 4 if they want some extra defense. Some of the off-season talk as well, trying to trade for Brook Lopez, was concerning. If they really wanted to put the time and effort into Sengun to develop, then the discussions around Brook Lopez coming in as the rim protector could have been as a bit of a backup, perhaps maybe some sort of smokescreen, but it is a little bit concerning. But look, I really like the talent. Baby Jokic, he's got the talent. He's got the skills. We love seeing his highlights. So I like him in this round.
How about you, Arik?
About Sengun?
Yeah, you can chime in about Sengun, or if you have any player that you like in this area.
Listen, I think I'm contemplating about Sengun because last year it was really overhyped. I knew it's overhyped, and he won't be a top 50 player. This year, I feel he's not overhyped because all of the other blockers and all of the new centers, and I think he'll have a solid year. I really think he's a really good offensive player. I trust Ime Udoka to see it, to understand how to utilize him defensively. I'm not sure I would have picked him this round, maybe the next round, but this is about the round that I look at him as a center that I want.
Yeah, totally agree. And then I think people are undervaluing how good of system player Fred VanVleet is. So I'm really excited how would he mesh with Alfred Singun. Any takes about
Houston, sorry, I'm
yeah, go ahead.
interrupting you. Houston is very interesting because finally it's a team. Okay,
Yeah.
it was a bunch of individuals, okay, that played together, okay, and trying to score with zero defense, and finally we're going to see them as a team. So I'm really excited to see not only Shenjun, but Green as well.
Yeah.
Finally, he's going to need to defense, okay, to play basketball the right way, not only shoot, and it's going to be good for his career, and I think for his outcome as a fantasy player.
Totally agree. Especially that uh, when I'm looking at fantasy, I'm also looking at how the team moves in the off season and how serious are them in terms of their direction. Getting someone like Jeff Green as a veteran presence there really means a lot for the young guys here in Houston. And I totally agree that they're more serious right now with the coach and the off season moves that they did. What can you say about Jordan Poole, D-Mac?
Yeah, he's my boy. We'll talk about him later when we talk about our top 3 picks. I love him. There is that risk that he's at the Wizards and, they're going to look to shut down. They always talk about that type of thing, but he's playing alongside Tyus Jones to start the season, which is good. He's a fantastic point guard, but I can see Poole taking that step up in regards to playmaking ability. So he's always going to have that scoring ability. He's always had it. He always will. He'll get you the free-flowing scores, the points, but the assists, I think, is where he's going to take that next step. So I'm really excited about what he can bring. He's got the elite free throws, which is really hard to find later in the draft as well. So super excited to see what he can do. I think he's got top 30 upside, but a lot of people probably disagree with that. I really, really think he's going to be an elite player this season.
So before I move into Arik, who would you rather have? Would you rather have Jordan Poole in his new role or Scotty Barnes in his new role?
Oh, that's easy. That's Poole.
There you go. Some swag right here for NBA fantasy basketball. Arik, you're raising your hand. What can you say about Jordan Poole?
I'm in total disagreement here. I really don't like Poole so early. Excuse me.
Sure. Hey
There's
there.
a little child here. My boy. I don't like. First of all, I don't like Poole as a player. I think he's not a smart player. Okay, and it's important because it replicates on his game. Reflects on his game. He's a high turnover guy. I don't disregard turnovers, even in a head-to-head. Okay, my philosophy is that you need to win first of all the categories that are easy to win. So I rather to lose in assists because assist is a war. Okay, it's a war. Everybody wants to get assist early. Everybody are fighting for assist. I won't fight. Take the assist. Give me the turnovers. Okay, we're splitting the points. That's fine with me. So he's a high turnover guy. He's a low efficiency guy. Yes, I really love the free throw percentages, elite. And this year he'll probably go a lot to the line, but he doesn't get you defensive stats. He's a poor rebound guy, even as a guard. So he'll give me points, free throw percentages, and I guess 3 points, and a couple of assists. I'm not sure he's going to be elite in assists. So I rather pass on him and take someone more valuable. But that's just me. I totally might be wrong here.
Yeah, this is something that we really thrive on. The differences that we have. And then when you're currently discussing your point, I see D-Mac there checking numbers, possibly checking something. What's your rebuttal on that, D-Mac?
Just the point around the turnovers. You can easily win turnovers by not having anyone play. That's my first rebuttal. But Jordan Poole, I think, yeah, he won't give you the elite assists, but he'll give you enough to then prop up his scoring as well. He's a threat from outside. He's going to get even more scores as well, being the lead man. He's not really going to be sharing it too much. There's Kyle Kuzma, yes, but I still think Jordan Poole is the alpha on this team. And when people move into that alpha role, they tend to also do really well in fantasy. Look, I'm not going to fight for him. If I can get him around this region, I'll be really happy. And I think there is that value there, that he has that upside. But I probably won't pick him in the top 30. I still want to retain some of that value, but I'd rather much have him than one of the bigger guys, which again, I'm going to talk about statistical scarcity. I can get some of their stats set later in the draft.
Okay. So the Jordan Poole is an interest. Me, I'm actually in the middle here, given that I like him as a player. I think he brings something that for me is going to be hard to get in the succeeding rounds, which is free throw influencer. So if you have a strategy, I think it bumps his value in terms of what he offers, I guess. But in general, I would agree that putting someone into a bigger role always has this risk wherein negative stats could actually impact their value. So for me, that's totally understandable. But at this area, I think you already have a core scheme when you're drafting. Plus, in this area, at least in the 5th and 6th rounds, points will be scarce. So I also would agree that if you kind of like wanted to draft Jordan Poole in that area, is totally understandable. But to pave away from that, earlier we talked about Wembanyama. Who do you like more? Drafting Wembanyama at 4th or drafting Chet Holmgren at 5? Arik.
Wembanyama is 4th.
Really? So before I
Yes.
move on to DMAC, so people are actually picking Chet Holmgren. Well, not all people. Some people are actually higher on Chet Holmgren over Victor Wembanyama, probably because of Wembanyama's playing in the San Antonio Spurs, and in terms of fantasy, people just hate my team, possibly that. But yeah, what's your take on that? What's your where you're coming from in terms of your assessment with Chet Holmgren?
First, I think Wembanyama is going to be a superstar. Chet Holmgren, I'm not sure about him, what he will bring to the table. I know that Victor Wembanyama played in a professional league. Okay, yes, it's the French league. I know for foreigners, it's not the NBA. For people from the US, if it's not from the NBA, it doesn't count. But it's a big difference to play 25, 30-year-old guys than college players. It's a huge difference. So I have much more belief in his 3 blocks per game than Chet Holmgren's 3.7 blocks per game in college. Okay, because this is in college, and in college a lot of stats are inflated. Okay, there are players that blocked more than 3 blocks a game in college and came to the league and blocked a lot less. You can have from Memphis. Oh, I forgot his name. The sub for Adams. No.
Xavier Tillman?
No, not Tillman. That was injured last year.
Brandon Clark.
Yes, Brandon Clark. Clark had 3.2 blocks per game in his last year in college. You can see it didn't translate well to the league. And as far as points, rebounds as well, you play in a professional league at such a young age. Yes, it's not the NBA, but the competition here there is much harder than in college. Okay, most of the players in college find themselves out of professional basketball. The good ones are playing in Europe, in the French league. Only the best come to the NBA. So you're playing with players that are better, much better than college players. Okay, so I think I made myself clear. I have much more confidence in Wembanyama's ability to replicate his stats even in the next year, not only in his career.
Okay. Okay. How about you, Dimak? Do you think there's a big gap between Shet and Wembanyama in terms of their game's translation to the NBA?
I don't think there's a massive gap, but I do agree with Arik. He's conditioned against men. He's played against men. He's played professionally. I think it will translate nicely. His ceiling, even from a dynasty perspective, is much higher. Well, not much higher, but is higher than Chet Holmgren. Plus, Holmgren's coming off of a really bad injury from last year. Not to say that they're going to rest him, but I think perhaps they'll keep his minutes in check. He's not the alpha on that team. Obviously, SGA is the alpha on OKC, whereas at times you'll find that Wemby is the go-to for the Spurs as well. Sure, the Spurs have the sell. I've got Keldon to a lesser extent. Some of these other guys coming through, but Wemby is going to be the draw card and the main event, so to speak. So yeah, I really love Wemby's outlook there.
And I personally think, as a Spurs fan, I personally think that San Antonio Spurs will gonna play in a faster pace next season. And something that I comment out as a big take to one of the tweets earlier. I forgot who tweeted that, but I comment out that, hey, I think the San Antonio Spurs will play a faster pace just because they wanted to check out, will Wembanyama fit as a good power forward or as a center in a small ball lineup, as Jeremy Sohan, be that anchor in terms of playmaking. They were talking about the moment you rebound, you run. So that's has been what I'm reading among all of the news that I got from the whole San Antonio Spurs. So for me, a better pace is better for fantasy. So yeah, I totally agree with both of your points. Round 6 is going to start with a big name from a big boy that that some say is a big bust, not only in fantasy but in reality. Do we agree on this? Let's see. Number 61 is Zion Williamson to start of the 6th round. We have Josh Giddey. We have Derek White, another player that is very popular nowadays. Chris Paul, Paulo Banchero, Cam Johnson at number 66, Brook Lopez at 67, Devin Vassell, 68, Rudy Gobert, Tyler Hero, Clint Capella, and rounding off the 6th round is Jeremy Grant. Any player you like here or you don't like here, D-Mac?
Surprisingly, I actually like one of the big men, and that's Rudy Gobert. I think if you were able to not pick one of your bigger guys early in the draft, I think Gobert coming into this round, let's say at 69, is a fantastic get. So he'll get you those blocks, maybe not to the level of a JJJ or a Walker Kessler anymore. It may return. He may go back to his best alongside of Towns, but it's still elite rebounds, elite field goal percentage. So I think at 69, that's really good value there. I'm just looking through that list. Zion, that's a tricky one. Zion at 61. Obviously, if you're looking for points, he's fantastic, but you're also looking for someone that isn't at risk of getting injured every single game. So I try to avoid Zion, particularly around this range. If I get him a little bit later, I'll probably be all on board, but it's still a bit of a risk. It's quite a risk at this level or at this stage of the draft. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, totally agree with Zion. He's someone that, if, to be honest, tell me your take on this. There's always a thinking when you drafted better in the first couple of rounds, you can actually do a Zion like in the middle or the latter part, given that, you're kind of like created your core. As someone who played like for the longest time, is this something that is, in the back of your head that, you think, hey, I think I'm comfortable picking Zion given that I maybe you drafted a Jason Tatum, Mikal Bridges, Vucevic combo initially. So is that something that you're comfortable doing, DMAC?
Yeah, I think you take that into account, how safe you did draft earlier. If you were to pick an AD or a Kyrie for different reasons, or anyone else that has that risk of sitting out, I think you need to avoid Zion in these mid stages of the draft. He's very tempting, very juicy. You know what he can provide. He's a dominant force and he's a superstar. It's just he cannot stay healthy, and that's the biggest concern for him.
Gotcha. How about you, Arik? What's your take in picking Zion?
24, 61, 0, 29. Those are the numbers of the games played each year in the 4 years he's in the league. Last 2 years, 0 and 29. I don't understand why people even contemplating about picking him. He's such a risk. You know what? He's not even a risk. We know he won't play a lot. Okay, if he's playing 45 games, it's a huge success. Okay, his average is less than 30 games a season. Okay, I'm not taking him, not this round, not next round, not 8th round, maybe 9th round, 10th round, this region. Not before I have other players with a lot of value to take here. I don't want to miss them to take a player in it's middle round. There's more rounds left that passed, more than that passed. I don't want to waste the 6th round pick. And Zion, sadly, okay, because he's really a fun guy to watch, a fun guy to have as a fantasy player when he's playing, especially if you're punting free throws. Beautiful, but I can't trust him.
Is this something that shifts if you're playing Roto, Arik? Or
No,
you
no,
treat him as the same?
no, the same. In Roto, we like to have players that I know that will play around 60 games. Okay, so I say, okay, 60 game is fine. Okay, I have replacement, and I get a nice value for those 60 games. When we're talking about Zion, I'm talking about 30 games. Okay, I'm not willing to take the chance. Okay, the only season he was healthy, he played 61 games. Great. If I'll get him in one of the last rounds and he'll play 60 games, great. I'm not willing to take that chance in the 6th round, especially when I see such nice names here. I much rather have Gobert, as Dimek said. Okay, it's so much wiser pick than to pick Zion this early.
Gotcha.
And another player I really don't like here is Banchero. Really don't like him here. He was ranked. He wasn't in the top 200 last year. Yes, people like points and assists. I understand it, but he doesn't contribute in any other aspects of the game, and his efficiency is horrible. I really hate this kind of players. I think it's too early. Yes, he'll be much better this year. It's really hard, but to get a bump from 212 to 60. As I see it, he will be ranked 90th, 100th, something like that. This is too early for me.
Yeah.
I'm an efficiency guy.
Actually, people are picking Paulo Banquer earlier than here. That's how I noticed. That's what I noticed in the past drafts and even mock drafts that I was observing. But before I let you go in this round, Arik, quick question: who would you rather have, Josh Giddey or Derek White?
I guess Dimak won't agree with me. But I prefer Derek White.
Derek White.
Yes.
Do you agree on that, Dimak? Or
Arik, I actually agree with you. No,
Great.
Giddey, great Aussie, fantastic Aussie, and he played for my hometown 36ers back in Adelaide. But Derek White, from a fantasy perspective, I think he's going to be in for a huge year. Giddy, it's again around the efficiency in the shooting. He looked really good at the World Cup. Not sure if that'll translate with the Thunder going into next season. I hope it does, because he's a really exciting, fun player to watch. But I think Derek White is my preference there.
There you go.
Every time we agree, I'm happy, because I value your opinion. I think, we have disagreements. I think you're a good fantasy analyst. I follow you on Twitter. So it's like to see that on most things we agree on. We have our differences, but it's okay.
Absolutely. Healthy to have those differences.
Yes, exactly.
There you go. Much love from different parts of the world here. Round 7, Scary Terry. And then we have Jalen Green, Franz Wagner, someone that I like here. MPJ, Marcus Smart, Markel Fultz, Jakob Pertl at 79, Mitch Robinson at number 80. You have here Jailhouse Miles Bridges, Tobias Harris, Chris Middleton, and Time Lord at number 84. Me personally at this area, I really like Chris Middleton here. I just think I always believe when I look at fantasy analysis, aside from the numbers and all, when before I decide, I also look at the narrative that they have. Of course, sometimes you're just hoping, like in terms of Zion Williamson, people are just really hoping for the positive, right? But for Chris Middleton, I'm just saying that he was paid. He is healthy right now, and then Milwaukee Bucks wants to win. And I just think getting him in this area, especially in the area we're in, slowly and surely points are really getting hard to find. I think Chris Middleton is a very good value in this area. What do you think, Arik?
First of all, Chris Middleton owes me. After he did what he did to me last year, he owes me. He owes me money. He owes me mental health. Okay? After what I was through because of him. But to be serious, I totally agree with you, especially when we're talking about Giannis's knee. Okay? So if Giannis will miss games, someone needs to get in this gap. Of course, if Middleton is healthy, okay, he will be the alpha in those games. Okay, so and because Middleton was really bad last year because of his injury, people are really cold on him. But it's not a healthy Middleton. A healthy Middleton is a top 50, 60 player per game. So getting him here, okay, there's no guarantees. His health may be an issue, okay, but it's a nice value pick here. I agree with you totally.
Gotcha. How about you, Dimak? Anyone from this list you're eyeing on?
Before you guys spoke, it was Middleton. So you stole my thunder. He was my guy. I think he's great value at this range. I know there's a lot of hype around Franz Wagner. I'm not behind it. I don't know. Look, I think he's got great potential. He's really efficient. But him trying to up in terms of points per game, it's going to be difficult, because I think Paolo is the guy. He is him on the Magic. There's a lot of talent, a lot of young talent coming through. I like Franz. I just don't know if I can pick him at this level. Same goes for Jalen Green, young, up and coming, Filipino blood as well, by the way. But 74 is a little bit rich, just based on what he's done. It's great that FBV is next to him, giving him some leadership, showing him some work ethic. It's just a little bit high for me. So I'm just going back to Middleton. Jakob Pertl, sneaky one. Again, if you did miss out on some of those early blocks, he really looked good at the latter stages for the Raptors when he did get that trade afterwards, coming back to the Spurs after so many years. He does look good. He does kill your free throws. But if you have built up the free throws with that buffer, with some guards or some really elite wings in the early stages, you could do worse than Jakob Pertl, get you elite rebounds and get you some of those blocks as well.
And to piggyback on that, to be honest, in this round, in the past drafts that I've actually been into and then observed, there's a lot of players here that really falls down. The only players that is getting picked in this area in this list is Wagner, um, Middleton, and then possibly Pirtle. The rest, I'm seeing them really fall down, especially Jalen Green. Jalen Green goes almost in the area of RJ Barrett, to be honest. And then among the bigs, I like I like Mitch Robinson and Robert Williams, but not in this area. Just because, again, there are players in this area that is really falling down. So that's the reason why I like them, because if you kind of like um since there's always a big man run that's gonna happen at some point, sometimes or most of the time, at least in the past mock drops and actual drops that I've been in, these two bigs, Mitch Robinson and Robert Williams, are the ones that are really, like, really falling down. And possibly for the reason, like, of obviously for Robert Williams, because of the injury, plus Kristaps Porzingis coming into play. And then for Mitch Robinson, he's always injured. I guess those are the two big reasons that's why people are down on those two. But I'm gonna ask you a question. Are you still do you still believe in Time Lord despite the Kristaps Porzingis acquisition? Let's start off with Arik.
On a per game basis, of course, I think he'll do much better this year. But is as you said, his injury proneness is too much of a liability. Again, I'm talking about it a lot. This chapter because this episode, because I think there's a lot of players you should avoid. You can pick so many blockers, so many centers that are so much safer. Okay, for example, if you're punting free throws, for example, think about 6th round Gobert, 7th round Peltel. That's crazy if you're on a free throw punt. You don't need what Time Lord brings like you did 3-4 years ago. There's a lot of blocks, there's a lot of field goal percentages, a lot of rebounds, and players that actually play.
Yeah, and actually in this area, you know who are the bigs that are being picked in this area? In my previous experience, the bigs that are being picked in the area are the bigs that we're gonna talk about in the next round, which is Jalen Duren and Mark Williams. Okay, so I guess let's move on the eighth round. Eighth
I did
round,
have
you
one
have
last question for you,
yeah, go ahead.
gentlemen, because
Go
I
ahead.
actually have my hometown league, and I've got a keeper league, and I have Markel Fultz and Miles Bridges, and I need to pick between the two. Now, who would you rather? I know that Miles Bridges leaves a bit of a nasty taste in the mouth, but we know that he can be a fantasy stud, and we've seen it a couple of years ago. Who would you rather, Markel Fultz or Miles Bridges?
For me, upside wise, I would say Miles Bridges, just because of, well, again, I'm looking at what he brought to the table. We've already seen that, right? We have historical data to back it up. Plus, the motivation behind how Charlotte Hornets handled his case and how NBA handled his case. So I think there's a pathway wherein he goes back to that player that the Charlotte Hornets think he is, which is possibly their 1-2 punch with LaMelo Ball. Markel Fultz, on the other hand, is kind of like, to be honest, for me, Markel Fultz is a safe pick, especially beyond mid rounds, because he's a combination of efficiency with defense, in comparison to other guards. But I don't see like potential beyond that. So if you compare the potential of Miles Bridges versus Markel Fultz, and then with respect to the format that you have, which is a keeper league, to be honest, I'd go Miles Bridges. How about you, Ari?
I will plug my nose and choose Bridges.
Yeah, here in
Smelly pick, but from upside point of view, it's the right pick.
And for everyone, we don't condone and we don't agree to everything that Miles Bridges did. We're just plainly talking about fantasy hoops here.
100% game wise.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead for round 8. Five more rounds. So we have here CJ McCollum. We have here Andrew Wiggins, Tyus Jones at 87, Kyle Kuzma at 88, Austin Reeves, John Collins at 90, Ja Morant at 91. You have Anthony Simons, Bud Hield, the big men that I've mentioned earlier, Jalen Duren and Mark Williams at 94 and 95. And finishing for this round is Klay Thompson. Let's start off with you, Arik. Do you like Jalen Duren and Mark Williams? Because these are the big men that is really low key getting hype in mock drafts and even in actual early drafts that I've seen. I don't know in mass. I don't know in other places, but here in the Philippines, Jalen Duren and Mark Williams are really being picked like earlier than their rankings.
I prefer Mark Williams over Duren. I think the situation in Detroit still is a little shady with all the bigs there. Mark Williams' role is, guaranteed. The minutes are guaranteed, and he has a nice upside. He's better free throw percentage shooter as well, free throw shooter. So from those two, I'll rather have him. In the 8th round, he's great. I think he's my best pick here. I think I prefer him over everybody. The only other player I'm thinking about in this round is Tyus Jones. Love his efficiency. We've seen him before as a starter. He always gives you great numbers as a starter. It would be interesting to see him starting in such a team, but is a guy that this is a guy that can win you assist and turnovers. So so I like him, but still the number one choice here for me is Mark Williams.
Gotcha. Before I move into DMAC here, I have a question for you, Arik. So we've mentioned the word safe earlier, right? So I have a question for you. When you see CJ McCollum and John Collins, do you see them as safer picks, or they are the ones that isn't really safe? More of like they aren't really the players that they used to.
McCollum is a low upside player, okay? He will give you the points and the assists, but not much else. He tends to get injured during the seasons. He's not the safest player in that aspect, but he's okay. But he's not a high upside player. If I need points at this point of the draft, I'll snag him, okay? Because he's about as good as you get so late in the draft. But if I'm good with points and okay with assists, uh, I'll take Jones before him. Yes, okay. But if I don't have any problem with points, I'll rather have one of the other guys. Collins, it's interesting because John Collins was a first rounder 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. He had a ton of an upside, and I think he'll be much better in Utah. Okay, and I think in the 8th round he's a wise pick, but he had injury last year, and that's why he shot worse. And I'm not sure that he's healthy. He's 100% healthy now. If it affects on his shooting, he still have problems with efficiency. So I won't rush picking him earlier than the 8th round.
How do you think John Collins's game meshes with the Utah Jazz, specifically in the front court, wherein you have someone like Laurie Markkanen, and then you have Olenek, that I think plays a role similar to Kyle Anderson, wherein that type of glue guy that establishes the system whenever they are on the court.
I guess we'll see this year. I'm not. Markkanen already showed that he can play as a small forward. He played nicely in Cleveland. He didn't get the ball as much because in the hierarchy he was the fourth player in offense, third or fourth. This isn't the case here. I guess they'll try to play really big. I'm not sure about Olinik. I love Olinik as a player and as a fantasy option when he gets the minutes. It's hard to predict here. Really hard to predict.
Gotcha. So I think Dimak is already back in his place. Dimak,
I'm back, guys. Yeah.
let's open the player that I know people are really kind of like loves and hates at the same time. Ja Morant at round 8. Are you interested to pick him?
I'm not interested. No. I think even fully healthy, he's not my sort of player. He doesn't have the efficiency that I love about a typical fantasy player. So when he's going to miss the third of the season, I think that's someone that I would avoid, even at this range of the draft. I think there's a lot of valuable picks still left. So I would avoid Ja Morant, only if there is a slot that you can just put him in, if it does allow for suspended players as well, being he's not injured. So it depends on your league settings.
So I have a follow-up question on that. So in fantasy drafts, there's always a situation wherein someone, a GM, kind of like messed around in their initial drafts. Unfortunately, picking, I don't know, maybe struggled picking good players initially. And then there's always a thinking wherein, hey, I messed up in the first 6 rounds or 5 rounds. Let me draft Zion Williamson. Let me draft Ja Morant, thinking that maybe they would redeem themselves and give the hopeful number of games that they provide as well as efficiency in terms of Ja Morant. So with that said, do you think it's better? It's a good. No, it's not. I don't think the perfect word is good. It's more of like, do you think it's a decent option to do, or would you rather stick with your guns of choosing the best available player or the most appropriate player in your build?
I still think at this range, you still try to fit your build, stick to your guns. I don't think it's time to take the risk on someone like Ja Morant because, let's be honest, even when he played a full season, he was still ranked in the 90s. So if you're still going to miss out on a third of the season, and he's also not that elite fantasy player, better real life player than he is fantasy, I would still stick to your build, stick to your guns, and continue that build as well. Yes, it may be worth taking some of the risks on Zion, but at least with Zion, he's probably going to start the season.
I love the puns there. I love the puns. But again, the reason why I really brought this up because in some, not every, but in some of the leagues, you'll always see a gem like that, right? Someone who picks back to back, like let me pick Zion, Ja Morant, and Miles Bridges. For me, I always see a sort of gem like that. I just want to give our thoughts on those GMs who does draft like that. Okay.
It's a quick way to lose. Let's be honest.
There you go. There you go. So moving to round 9, starting off with a couple of bigs you have here. Wendell Carter Jr., Draymond Green, another Jones. Let's see if Arik likes this Jones. Trey Jones. You have here Daniel Gafford, Jaden McDaniels, Spencer Dinwiddie. You have D'Angelo Russell, the number 2 rookie, Scoot Henderson, the one of the hype player that unfortunately was injured, Trey Murphy. You have Zach Collins, another underrated big here, Jabari Smith Jr., and Anthony Melton. I'm personally gonna start off with Daniel Gafford. I think he's one of the big men that I like in the latter part of the draft that could actually give you boost in blocks. Again, this is in line with the discussion we had earlier, wherein if you missed several bigs earlier that that provides an average of 2 blocks per game at least, and then also if you ended up deciding that hey let me pick guards first, let me pick scorers first, then maybe or not maybe I would actually suggest picking Daniel Gafford to compensate for that blocks, because if you check out other bigs after this round, you'll definitely won't get the upside that Daniel Gafford has. Also, won't
There's
get.
one that has the upside.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for his name.
Okay, let's wait for that. But yeah, I think Daniel Gafford is a solid pick here in the latter part of the rounds in terms of getting those blocks up. Dima, what can you say about this round?
Yeah, I know who Arik's thinking of, and he plays for the Hawks. But let's talk about this round. Gafford's got top 50 upside. I love his game. Yes, he did start last season, but he started alongside of Kristaps Porzingis. So that did take a lot of his opportunities to be the big man and be that center force. So I think he's got a great opportunity to be that guy, play a lot more minutes if he can stay out of foul trouble. Build on your blocks. If you are struggling with blocks, build on that. Get your rebounds. He's not a high rebounds guy, but he'll still get you solid enough rebounds. And of course, the field goals as well. So that's a really nice shot into the field goal column.
And then what I'm thinking, to be honest, with Daniel Gafford, just to add, you have a Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma who might chunk a lot of shots. So I'm thinking there could be additional offensive rebounds or defensive rebounds for Daniel Gafford. Plus, in response to Arik's one of his picks earlier, Tyus Jones, an efficient guard. So I'm just thinking, hey, I think when you check out his backup center and then other bigs there, I think Daniel Gafford is actually a good pick here. So let's go back to Arik. Arik, out of this list, who do you like or don't like?
I don't like most of the names here. Okay, most of the names here I won't draft in the ninth spot. I won't draft Dillor here. Won't draft Scoot. Won't Gafford. I would draft ninth round. I'm not in love with Gafford, but for ninth round he's got solid value, and I agree with you both. If I need to pick one player here, if it's already the ninth round and I'm playing in a head-to-head format and thinking about the playoffs, okay, I'll take here, I guess, Trey Murphy, okay? He will be injured, okay? But if I have confidence in my team in the first 8 picks, I will gamble on Trey Murphy to be ready in time for playoffs. He is supposed to be back a lot before the playoffs, and I really like his upside. Yes, it's a gamble, it's a risk, but we're talking already on the ninth round, and we're talking about player with fifth round per game value, upside, fourth round even. So part of this pick is because I really don't like the others, but I'm fine with him in the ninth round. Start gambling.
So before I move to DMAC, so Arik, so say for example, there's a GM who unfortunately wasn't able to draft guards for some reason, and then ended up in this situation. So who would you rather have as a guard in this round? Would you rather have Trey Jones?
Trey Jones, easily. Trey Jones, easily.
There you go.
Easily. D'Lo, I'm not sure about his role in the Lakers this year. First of all, second of all, if we're talking about Dinwiddie is really on most years he wasn't a top 100 player. He had really successful last year. I don't count on him. Trey Jones, you know you will get the assist, you get the steals, you get the nice line, the low turnovers. I'm taking him.
Gotcha. T-Mac, quick question. Something that I kind of like observe in the past drops, Mac or actual drops. These two bigs are being drafted like a little bit earlier than their ranking. I'm talking about Zach Collins and Jabari Smith Jr. Any thoughts?
I like them both. We saw what Zach Collins was able to do at the end of last season. He was really impressive. He's a really good passing big as well. So he's got different facets to his game that other bigs don't have. It has been stated that he will start at center alongside a Wemby at power forward, which is a really good announcement for him and for fantasy managers as well. In terms of Jabari Smith, he had a really good start of summer league until he got sat, which is the right thing to do. Even at the end of last season, he was coming along nicely. His shot, his field goal percentage really let us down. And I was one who was relatively high on him last season, just coming out of college. He was likely to go number one, ended up not, but he had so much pedigree coming into the season, but he really let us down. I think this year he'll do really well. There's just a lot of talent, a lot of mouths to feed on that Houston team. So I still think that this is a really good position to draft him with some upside as well. But of the two, I'd probably pick Zach Collins.
He could be a huge winner, Jabari Smith, from the situation in Houston. There's a lot of mouth to feed, but finally he will get the ball where he needs to get the ball. And again, they'll play real basketball, not the strange game they played last year.
Yeah, totally agree on the improvements that Houston Rockets did. Round 10, talking about the big man that Arik has been raving earlier. You have Onyeka Okongwu to start this round. You have Brody, Russell Westbrook, Shaedon Sharpe, another player that people are kind of like really hyped on. Garrett Trent Jr., Bruce Brown, another player that people I notice is being drafted earlier. Aaron Gordon, Dennis Schroeder, the MVP, Keegan Murray, Mike Conley, Jonas Valanciunas, the daddy of US team, and you have Herb Jones, and then Kabayan Jordan Clarkson. D-Mac, any player, possibly let's aside from the player that you want to talk about, let me start off with Shaedon Sharpe. What can you say about Shaedon Sharpe?
Really depends on if Dame's still going to be there. If Dame's not there and a similar ilk player does not return in a trade, if it does happen, I think Shaedon Sharpe can have a huge season. He's young, he's athletic, he's really exciting. We saw at the end of last season again, he's built that momentum. He looked really sharp, pardon the pun. But he looked really good. But it does depend on if Dame is going to be there. Obviously, they do have other guys on the team, but he is a young up-and-comer coming into the draft as well. There was a bit of an unknown around him, but I think he showed his pedigree at the end of last season. I like him, but if we get more information before the season starts and we hear that Dame has been shipped off, then I like him a lot more. So it's not a bad upside play at this stage of the draft.
So if there's a line in between, are you willing to roll the dice on Shaedon Sharpe, given that there could be some role changes depending on Dame being moved?
Yeah, at this stage of the draft, absolutely. Take the risk. He's got the upside, so yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. And how about you, Arik? Talk about Onyeka Okongwu.
Let me talk about Onyeka. You started with his name. I shut myself. Didn't even listen to other players in the round. I'm in love with this player. I'm in love with him. Okay. First of all, he helped me win the LOFB ball. In the 1 week of the finals that I played against 59 others, he had more than 5 free throw attempts, and he shot them in more than 90%. Okay, opposed to Steph Curry that shot about the same free throw attempts in 75% a game. This is a player that was a sub that finished ranked 75 per game with only about 20 minutes per game. Okay, he is a great blocker. He has a nice steal rate. He's a nice rebounder. He got much better in free throws. He's not a traditional center, but he gives you the traditional stats of a center. And if they will finally start him, he's got top 40 upside easily. He's he's really a beast. Okay, and I'm willing to take the chance that he won't start at the 10th round, because on a per game basis, he should give me more than 10th round value, even as a sub.
Yeah. And then his road to stardom actually started a couple of seasons ago We already see his per minute monsterness, for the lack of words. And I personally think, if you'll ask me, I personally think this is going to be that season. I totally think I agree with Arik. I think if he's available in this area, I would actually draft him. Unfortunately, in the past drafts, he's being taken ahead of several names, several bigger names. But yeah, anything you want to add, Arik?
Yes, opposed to other bigs that we talked about, he's a really, really good player. He's great on defense, okay? He switches perfectly, okay? He has great rim protection. He's about as good as it gets in all of the defense aspects, okay? And is only 2.203 height. Okay, his height. I'm talking meters, not feet. I don't know how it translates to feet, but he's got all the quality of a great big man in a modern era that can switch. So I believe at some point, like you, and I hope that it will be this season, they let him play. He's a great player. And now, without Collins, I suspect that he might play as a four, as a power forward next to Capella, because he started shooting threes at the end of last season, and in practice he shoots great.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at his minutes because I'm also thinking about the dynamics between him and their new coach last season. So I'm looking at it, and he's giving us on an average on top 20 minutes plus. So I think at this point, that's with the upside. That for me, it's a little bit safe if you assess it. So yeah, totally love Onyeka Okongwu here. Dimak, I have a different question for you. There's another young guy here, similar to Onyeka Okongwu, but this guy is SGSF, a shooter, I might say, from the Sacramento Kings, who played 80 games straight. His name is Keegan Murray. People are also kind of like into him in terms of, they kind of like what he brings to the table. What can you say about Keegan Murray?
He shot pretty well last year. A lot of threes. You know what he's getting. He's bringing you a lot of scoring, a lot of threes. I just don't see how he can step up. I don't think he's got the upside of it, Okongwu, and I agree with Arik 100%. I think Okongwu's got top 30, top 40 upside, particularly if Capella is moved. But I don't see that movement and that level of improvement coming from Keegan Murray. So I think this is about the right range for him. What do you think, Papi?
Yeah, totally agree. I guess the eye popping there is the 80 games because something that I noticed in the GMs, at least in the Philippines that I've been checking out, they are a little bit really cautious this season. They are really looking at those number of games played. So I guess that's also the reason, one of the reason that why Keegan Murray is getting a lot of love. Before we move on to the next round, gonna ask you both, with Trey Murphy being injured, plus Zion Williamson a little bit on the gray area if he plays. Talk about Herb Jones. Herb Jones, does he deserve the bump in rankings that he have now, post injury of Trey Murphy? Let's start off with Arik.
I love Trey Jones. Most of the managers, most of the analysts don't tend to not count steals as much because of the variance of the category between week to week. But I really love players like him because they're usually go drafted way after their rank. So I'm gaining value. I'm all about value. Okay, I think it's very important to gain as much as value as you can. Of course, when you have strategies different, but I'm not opposed to not punt a category even in head-to-head format. Okay, it depends on the league. It depends on a lot of aspects. We won't get into it now, but I really like Herb Jones. Is now I think his ADP is 139, something like that. I would draft him at the 10th round easily. I know that he'll be free in the 11th and 12th round, so maybe that will change my mind. But I prefer him on most of the names that are in this round.
Gotcha. And how about you, Dimak? Are you more comfortable of getting Herb Jones with Trey Murphy's injury?
I can see why people have reacted in the way, and his ADP's gone up to 119 from 137.7.
Oh, wow.
I understand it, but I wouldn't take him there just because he had that opportunity last season. So Zion played, 25 games? Ingram played 45 games. So he had the opportunity to build on not just defense, but also take some shots, but he didn't quite step up. So I understand with the steals, yep, there's some value there. I just, I think you can get that elsewhere. I don't think Trey Murphy being out is actually going to impact Herb Jones, and Trey Murphy being out may not be even for that long, to be honest. There's a chance that he'll start his preseason quite shortly. It's not going to be a long-term injury as well. So, yeah, it solidifies his role. I just don't think he'll take that next step up.
Gotcha. And just to add on that, Trey Murphy is possibly one of the lowest ranked player that has a lot of value in the first initial Yahoo ranking. You know, he was like way down. You can actually get him in the last round, which he don't deserve. So now that people are actually noticing him, despite the injury, I would say he should be drafted in the latter part of the rounds. So we're now in the area wherein we get upside picks. Round 11, you have Bobby Portis, Bojan Bogdanovic, Al Horford, PJ Washington, Malcolm Brogdon, Norman Powell, Kevin Herter, Colin Sexton, Javon Carter, Emmanuel Quickley. You have Cal Anderson at 131 and Josh Hart at 132. Me personally, I really like Malcolm Brogdon here. You know why? Because I just think his role in the Boston Celtics is very important. I love Derek White. I think he's the Swiss Army guard that the Boston Celtics needs. But I just when I look at Boston Celtics and why they kind of like lose in most of the games that I thought they should have won rather, I just think they kind of like lack that player that establishes the play and the system that they wanted to do, which I think Malcolm Brogdon has a better chance of doing over Derek White. So with Marcus Smart out, despite Kristaps Porzingis coming in, I just think at this point, not in general, of course, at this point at round 11, I think he can provide value more than the ranking that he has. I think he's especially in Roto, he provides us better efficiency among other options as a PGSG option here in this area. So yeah, I just think I like Malcolm Brogdon here. DMAC, what can you say about this round?
I agree with you. I think Malcolm Brogdon's solid pick there. Sixth man of the year. I think he's without Marcus Smart, he's going to be leading as well. I think it's a really solid pick, but I actually do like Josh Hart here at 132. I think, yes, there's some more guys at the wing position, but we saw with Team USA, he's quite versatile as well. And getting those out of position stats, getting those rebounds from a guard position is actually really valuable at this stage. I like him here. 132 is real great value.
Before we move into Arik, quick question on Josh Hart. How do you think Dante DiVincenzo's acquisition impacts Josh Hart, or would he even impact Josh Hart?
It does. It does. There's just more mouths to feed there. But I think that they can both play alongside of each other. I can see that happening. There's already some college history with a couple of those guys on the team as well. So that's a nice thing to have and build that synergy. I think it could be a great thing. Josh Hart doesn't have huge upside, but I still think at 132, there's some value there.
And Thibodeau loves him. I guess when you talk about any player that is under Thibodeau, when you analyze their fantasy value, you have to check, does Thibodeau love them or not? Because you know what's gonna happen if Thibodeau loves the player. Arik, what do you say about this round?
I have nothing to add. Those are my two names that I wanted to talk about. I agree fully with both of you. Let's move on to the 12th round.
12th round. Okay. Interesting players here. You have Denny Avdia to start off the round. Ivica Zubac, one of the targeted players. I love the reaction because I love
Israeli. We don't have a lot of Israeli players.
The next Luka, they say. We have here the infamous RJ Barrett. We have here Jaden Ivey, Bogdan Bogdanovic at 137, Gordon Hayward, KCP, Sadiq Bey, Kyle Lowry, Obi Toppin. One of the players that also is, knocking on the door in terms of people's favorites, I guess. You have also Kolenik, something that we've talked about. And then lastly, the hype player in the past days, basketball Paul Reed. Arik, what can you say about Paul Reed? Because I know you kind of like loves checking out efficiency and all and the upside and all.
I love
What is it about Paul
defensive
Reed?
stats, and he's a defensive stats crazy monster. But still, he's behind the bid. I don't believe the rumors that they'll play two bigs. It doesn't make any sense to me. As a value pick here in the 11th, 12th round, as an upside an upside pick, I'll totally take him. But not sooner in the draft. The 12th round, it's okay. This is the place to take high upside picks. I think in this round, it depends. If I want a high upside, I'll take him. If I want some players, safe player, because I have a high value team and a high upside team, and I will want someone safe, I'll take KCP. And if I want to go with my heart, I'll take Avdia because he's Israeli, but I usually work with my mind, not with my heart in fantasy. So I'll probably pass on Avdia.
But though Danny Avdia actually has a decent upside this coming season, I think.
And by the way, even in Israel, nobody calls him the next Luka. And if there's someone that does this horrendous comparison, we laugh at him. Okay, we're totally down to earth. He's no Luka.
Again, the next Luka was tagged by the vloggers that we have, right? So
yes.
You know what we see here in the internet. DMAC, what do you say about RJ Barrett? If you lack points, are you comfortable taking RJ Barrett this late?
Even lacking points, I would probably still stay away because, like Arik, I love my efficiency, so I'm still going to stay away. But I want to come back to Paul Reed. I think he's got great upside. I think he could be a top 90 player, and he can play alongside Embiid. I think he's got the range on his shot. I've seen him play before. He can shoot the three ball. He's very good from the field. He's decent from the line. He's not going to kill you at the line, plus those defensive stats, not just blocks, but he will bring those steals as well. There's been talk that he will play alongside Embiid as well. And perhaps he even starts ahead of PJ at the 4 as well. So that could work. And if he gets upwards of 25 minutes, watch out because top 90, top 80 incoming.
If he's playing 25 minutes, I think he's top 70 easily. Okay, I think he can have 20 minutes and be top 90, exactly like Okungu. I'm not sure it will happen, but again, in that round, in the 12th round, is the guy to take. You want to take those high upside players.
Yeah, totally agree. They won't call him basketball Paul for no reason. He's been racking up amazing, not only just good stats, but amazing stats in G League. His it's just a delight for me, to be honest. I think he has a better upside than Time Lord like way back, just because of what we see already in what he's done in the G League.
I posted a video from his G League a couple of years ago, and he just looks so good. And I know G League's very much a level down, but he just looks so great. He does have that upside, and there has been comparisons with Pascal Siakam as well, which is a lovely comparison. And maybe in years to come, they'll call Pascal the B grade version of Paul Reed.
A better defender as well.
Much better defender.
Yeah. Last round, we have here Gabe Vincent, possibly the reason why we don't like D'Lo's role in the Los Angeles Lakers. We have Quentin Grimes. I like Q Grimes. We have Tari Eason, another player that we have. Benedict Mathurin, Jonathan Kuminga, Keldon Johnson, Dennis Smith Jr., Cole Anthony, Kobe White, Kevon Looney, Malik Monk, and the infamous Dillon the Villain Brooks. Me personally, I think I'm gonna. This is like not more of like a generic upside, more of like a specific upside or category that that kind of like really catches my attention is Benedict Mathurin's free throws made. He's actually within the top 15 overall last year. So I just think at this area, um, if you need to someone to help out to establish your free throws and have an influence on that, I think, and especially if you lack points as well, I think Benedict Mathurin is a good option in the latter part of the rounds, and I just think Indiana will give him that 6-man role at least to be able for him to not only replicate what he did last year, but also kind of like improve some aspects of it. But again, specifically for free throws made, I'm liking Benedict Mathurin here. Arik, anything you want to say in the last round?
It's a coin flip. It depends on what you need in the certain round. Mathurin has a decent upside. Terry Easton as well. I think for the most likely, the player you pick here will find himself in the waiver wire 2 weeks into the season, even 1 week into the season. So I'll take Mathurin is a decent pick here, especially if you need points.
Before I move into DMAC, do you think Keldon Johnson deserves to be in this area?
Keldon Johnson has a huge efficiency problem. Part of it because they gave him a part that he can't handle. He's not the star, okay? He can't be the star. He doesn't have the talent to be a star, okay? Maybe now that he'll have a reduced role, his efficiency will go up. For now, he's not something I'll consider drafting, but it may change during the season.
Yeah, and in terms of efficiency, I'm also thinking if that happens, given that the reason why his efficiency dropped last year is he actually shot a lot more threes than in the past seasons, which I think he will continue to do so, given that he has a Wembanyama on his side. So yeah, definitely an interesting player to check out. But again, the reason why I called him out is he is being picked like earlier than this round in public. So I wanted to pointed that one out. DMAC, any player you like here?
I like Mathurin as well. I think there's a possibility that he does start for Indiana rather than the 6-man role. Perhaps Buddy Hield comes off the bench and Mathurin starts. He's a super exciting prospect. He's a better real-life player than he was fantasy last season, but perhaps his efficiency does improve this season as well. So I do like him at this round. You are looking for upside, and as Arik said, you're probably going to stream through these guys anyway. But if you have someone that does have that upside and does perform in the first few games, you absolutely hold on to them as well. Keldon Johnson, not a big fan of. I think he will have that reduced role, and perhaps he even comes off the bench. Jeremy Sohan may start at the 4. Vassell, Trey Jones, Wemby, Collins as well. So yeah, I'm not a fan of Keldon Johnson this season.
Gotcha. So last couple more thoughts in terms of the rounds. If I would have drafted a player that we weren't able to mention, I would start just one player. I would start. I'll start our role. I'm gonna go Ben Simmons. Probably just because of what he was able to do, and then because I'm just poking with the fantasy side of fantasy, meaning I'm just thinking there's a conspiracy theory wherein it's about the contract. It's not about him not playing and all. So I'm just, wanted to poke a little bit of fun and upside as well. So I'm thinking if there's any player that wasn't mentioned, I would have drafted Ben Simmons in this area. Dima, any player that wasn't mentioned that you think should be considered as an upside pick here?
Yeah, I'm looking at Yusuf Nurkic at 160. That's unbelievable. I know he hasn't performed very well in the last couple of seasons, but there's not much depth at center for Portland. And I know he's been in trade discussions and rumors a lot next to Dame, but at 160, I'm willing to take that chance.
Gotcha. Good pick. Nurk is actually being picked like around 11 in mock drafts. Arik, how about you? Last upside pick.
I really don't like Nurkic, but I agree with Dimek here, and I personally think the Tybal is someone to draft if you need the steals, especially that he's shown he can shoot the 3-pointers at the end of last year. Is someone I would have grabbed as a steal specialist in the 13th round.
Gotcha. Another thing, let's do another round. This time rookie, because there's always a trend that in every drafts, mostly in publics, people are getting rookies as a part of their last pick. So I'm gonna let Dimak pick his guy here. I think he's gonna pick what I'm thinking right now. Who do you think is the rookie that you'd pick in the last round?
I'm typically with fantasy. I'm not huge on rookie guards, but I think with Scoot, I think Scoot's got some real talent. Obviously Wemby is the number one, but I think Scoot, particularly if Dame does depart, I think Scoot's got some real upside. And look, probably not a top 100 player. He's going to struggle with efficiency, but we saw some of what he could do at Summer League. There's a real excitement factor about him, a real fun factor. So I really like him. Obviously, the Thompson twins as well. I think they bring the defense, which I think Arik will talk about shortly. He loves defense. So both the Thompson guys, I think they're fantastic. And probably Asar at Detroit has a bit of a clearer path to minutes as well. So he's probably not the better player, but he probably has the better prospects this season to be a better fantasy player.
Yeah, totally agree with Asar. To be honest, even before the KPG situation, I'm like thinking about taking Asar, like one of my last picks, if especially if it's a deep league, just because of what also Arik mentioned earlier about Tybal. I think Azar has like a path to that stats, as well as the moment that Detroit won't win a lot and then come the latter part of the season. I just think Azar is a very good option as from out of those rookie polls. Arik, how about you?
It depends. If I'm punting field goals or free throw percentages, if I'm disregarding efficiency, then all of those three names are great. But this class doesn't have a ton of upside from a fantasy point of view. Maybe Brandon Miller will. I don't trust him, but his free throw percentages were really high last year. But I think the three names that Dimek said are about the three correct ones.
Gotcha. And to sum our episode for today, a very long but very, very solid episode. Top the maybe not three, because we've talked about several players. Give me any number of players that you're high on this season, and a couple of names as well that you aren't high on this season. So let's start off with Dima.
Yeah, talked about them already, but Cade Cunningham, I'm big on. I think he's going to be a tremendous player this season. Desmond Bane, I think with Jar sitting out the first third of the season, he's got a real opportunity to expand on his not just scoring ability, but also his playmaking ability, which is really good for a wing. He's got great vision, great basketball IQ. So I think he can build on that, particularly next to Marcus Smart and Derrick Rose. I think he's got that ability. And obviously when Jar comes back, he'll take a hit in usage, but I think he's got some upside. He's been taken pretty early in Yahoo drafts at an ADP of 21, which is pretty rich, but probably around the spot that you want to take him. Fantrack's a lot better value at 38. So Desmond Bane, Fantrack's 38. I'm all about that. And finally, I guess we've spoken about Jordan Poole. You know how I feel about him.
Gotcha. How about you, Arik?
I'm on board with D-Bane. I really like his upside. I really like his efficiency. I think he can be a real star in the league. And the other two names are players that we talked about, Evan Mobley and Towns. I think both of them are solid picks, can give you value if you pick them around their ADP. And of course, the last name, Onyeka the Great, that I think he will crush his ADP.
Gotcha. For me, we've talked about some of the players, and let me add a couple. I think Devin Vassell. I like Devin Vassell's game. So if we look at what he did in his 38 games last year, he was averaging 18 points, 1.1 steals, almost 4 rebounds, a good amount of free throws, almost 3 free throws there, and then around 7 attempts in 3 points. So with Wembenyama um, being in the core, I think Devin Vassell's role is more important than ever. Wembenyama needs a lot of shooters. The combination of Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, and Wembenyama in the front court as a defensive triple threat is something that I don't think the whole San Antonio Spurs won't try, because I think those are the top three players that they have. People that, well, I'm talking a lot of Spurs here. On the other side, to be honest, I'm thinking about Trey Jones with his value, because majority of his points is coming from uh the twos. So with Wembanyama in place, I'm just thinking how would it work? How the dynamics with that, as well as Jeremy Sohan's playmaking coming in to play. So I'm just thinking maybe I'm a little bit down on Trey Jones in terms of I would rather have Tyus Jones obviously over Trey Jones, but if I'm really banking on dimes, to be honest, I was thinking going hard on the latter part of the draft and taking Dennis Schroeder than banking on Trey Jones. I just think there's no upside there. And then in the middle ground, something that is on my gray area is Jalen Williams. He's a very amazing player, to be honest. J Dub. I'm just thinking, what needs to happen for him to get better fantasy value this season? With Chet Holmgren available, a season that SGA dominated, which I think he won't stop, obviously. And then a better and a more active Josh Giddey. I'm just thinking other facets that J-Dub could actually improve on. So I'm not keen on reaching on J-Dub, but of course, as a fair value, I would rather have him in the middle rounds compared to other wings. So yeah, so that is our episode for today. A little bit long, but long is better, especially if there's a lot of things we learned, a lot of things we discussed. So before we end our episode, I would like you guys to promote your own accounts and your own stuff going on. So let's start off with Arik. Anything you want to plug for today?
As we talked about, we have a fantasy app, Day-to-Day Fantasy. We have there not only rankings, not only projections, team evaluation, pickup advice during the season, and it's free. So you can download it on Apple or on Android, and you can find us. We're very active on Twitter, Day-to-Day Fantasy. Check us out.
Okay, and you can also find Arik in Twitter at Arik Zilber. And by the way, again, reminding
I prefer not, because this is the account I'm communicating in Hebrew. So I prefer Day-to-Day Fantasy. I'm communicating solely in English. So for all of the international people that hear me, this is my preference.
There you go. So before I let you go, Arik, let's give us a Hebrew word for today's episode. I guess it's a good thing to give words to us, given that we're an international bunch of analysts here. Give us one Hebrew word that me and D-Mac will use moving forward.
One word that connected to this episode, aroch. You know what's aroch?
Aroch?
Arok.
Aro. Yeah.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Long.
Yeah, a raw. This is a raw episode. So 13.
Arok, which in the end, Arok.
Arok. Is
that Dwayne Johnson?
Yeah, that's the Rock. Okay, so DMAC, anything you want to plug?
I just wanted to say to Arik, L'chaim, I felt like having a drink earlier, but it's probably a bit unprofessional. So L'chaim.
Thanks.
Just wanted to say, catch me on Twitter, NBA Fantasy Bible. Pretty active on there. Hit me up as well. I'll be doing some of my own content this year. I may have a couple of guest appearances, perhaps by you guys as well. We can get you on board, and perhaps a couple of guys from Australia as well. They're keen to get some content out too. So keep an eye out for that. Also, I'm going to be expanding into TikTok realm as well. Look, I'm probably a bit old for TikTok, but I think it's a bit of fun. So that's what it's all about.
We want to see you dance, DMAC.
I practice with my daughters every single day. They think I'm lame. I'm a lame dad, but that's okay. I can live with that.
I want to see peak Jordan Poole. Peak Jordan Poole.
It's pool party time.
Pool party time. Before we move forward, Australian word or any word that you can share.
How
about the translation of long? Is there a different translation of long in Australia, or like?
No, that's it's long. Yeah. It's like beating a dead horse. It sometimes it takes a bit too long, takes too much effort.
There you go. So in Filipino we call it mahaba. This episode is mahaba. Can you say that, Arik?
Marhaba.
Yes, mahaba.
It's in Arabic. It's in Arabic, not in Hebrew.
Oh, really?
Yes, marhaba. It's in Arabic.
Oh, so in Filipino or in Tagalog, we say mahaba. It's also long.
Mahaba in Filipino.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Mahaba.
So yeah, everyone, maybe we are all excited. This is why we eventually had a long episode. But then again, I think this episode is something that you'll enjoy. There's a lot of discussions that we had along all 13 rounds, and then thank you so much. We're back in place. We have Arik here. We have DMAC here. We're going to be here full season every week. So watch us, guys. Follow Arik. Follow DMAC's content coming up, and we're looking forward to that dance. DMAC, of course.
So it's again, coming. I'll be practicing.
It's coming. Oh no, I think Arik and I should also do something about that. Anyway, this has been your Fantasy Papi, Papi Roi. Fantasy Possible PH in the house. Bye. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.